final speaker is Mr. Bobby Bazan. He is the Water Resource Specialist with Post Oak, Savannah, and our newly elected Secretary of TAG. So welcome, Bobby. He's going to be speaking to us about Groundwater Well Assistant Program.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here, and thank y'all for having me and giving me the opportunity to talk to y'all a little bit about a program that the Post Oak Savannah Groundwater Conservation District has been running for a couple of years now, and has, in our eyes, been a valuable tool to help build relations with the people within our district, and for some, you know, write some stories about what's been going on in and around our district. So without further ado, I'll get into the quick program. So before I talk about what our groundwater assistance program is, I do need to talk a little bit about, our mission statement, what we do, why we're created, just like a lot of other districts around the state. You can find very similar language that, we have to create rules and enforce rules that are consistent with state law, and using best available science in order to balance the landowner's right to use water or for production, while also preserving the right to conserve and protect and the prevention of waste of groundwater, which is what these are what our main management goals are, summarized within this within this mission statement. And you can see that is also within a lot of our enabling documents. Chapter 36, Texas Water Code, states a lot of the same things. You must protect the property rights, balance conservation and development of groundwater to meet the needs of the state. And that's in Chapter 36. Our enabling legislation also says the same thing: protect and recharge groundwater. And at the very end there, you kind of see regulate the transport of water of the boundary outside of the boundaries of the district. So Post Oak Savannah Groundwater Conservation District, when they were created, was created because we already had a bullseye already on top of our within our district, within Burleson and Milam counties. There was a lot of land leasing going on, or actually groundwater leasing rights going on, that was forming these leases of groundwater to try to market it, to move it outside of the district. So that horse had already left the barn before the Groundwater Conservation District was created. So that's why the district is around. So, we were put in place to try to protect that and to regulate that transport. And so that always leads us to this constant battle that we're always fighting with, and we're always trying to balance. How do you allow for the most practicable use, or the highest, I guess is the word that a lot of people wind up using, the highest practicable level of groundwater production, but also allow for people that right to leave the water in place, to conserve it, to preserve it, and protect a groundwater resource that we want for future generations, our kids, our grandkids, and their grandkids to be able to use later on in the future. So we're always battling this tug of war to make that work out. And so you see a lot of these same battles going on here, or those same language going on. And so why do we have the need for this groundwater assistance program? Why was this program even thought of? And so, when you're trying to balance out this highest practicable use of allowing production to occur, but yet also trying to conserve some in place for those future generations to use, you sometimes have those potential consequences that could cause water level declines to occur. Now, I'm going to put this with the caveat to say that doesn't mean that we don't have rules in place, or that we don't regulate with our permits or our other management plans, or that we have in place already. This is a tool that was designed and developed to assist with some of those rules and our permitting. So don't take them out of place, or to mean that this is out of place. But even with that, you can permit groundwater use, you can regulate it, but you're still going to face some of these consequences where you're going to have some declines. People are going to start calling you in your office, and they're going to be mad about their water levels going down, and they anticipated that it was going to stay the same it was from the day they drilled it. And that's just the nature of the industry that we're working in. And so how do we keep both sides happy or both sides mad all at the same time, whichever way you want to look at it. So, and not just that, but Post Oak Savannah is also sits in an area that is surrounded by this high growth areas. Um, I know a lot of people have brought this up. This is out of the 2022 that state water plan that just came out, and shows that Brazos County over to the east of us is one of the largest growing areas in the state, in the top 25 growing areas, municipalities in the area. And then Williamson County over to the east of us is or to the west, sorry, is growing, and that I-35 corridor, which is where some of the water that already within the district is permitted to go down to this I-35 corridor. And so we knew that there was going to be some issues coming up. A lot of our groundwater management runs, or availability model runs that we had already done through the DFC process, had already shown that we were probably going to experience some drawdown events occur, and there were going to be some local impacts. And so what is the Groundwater Well Assistance Program? So in summary, it's a program that in 2018, at the request of some landowners, this wasn't just the board themselves, we worked with local landowners in the area or within the district that came to the board and said, we want something to kind of help us out here, because we understand that water levels may fall, but what are we supposed to do in the instance where we run out of water? And so the board established this program in 2018 to assist well owners with the financial costs. We pay 100% of the cost to either lower and replace pumps in a well, to either re-drill a water well in the instance that water well is no longer usable, or if they choose, then we would connect them to a local water utility if that is an available option. And so y'all may be thinking to yourself, well, this just sounds like a mitigation plan, Bobby. Why are you up here telling us about an assistance program? Well, I'm going to use the words of Rafiki here, and we got to look harder, because Chapter 36 basically says you can take your water, with the rule of capture is the rule of water within the state. And I'm going to go back here really quickly. And you cannot assign, you can take water, all the water you want. You heard Chairman Pop talking about it. You heard Gabe talking about it yesterday. You can take all that water as long as you do not intend to cause harm to your neighbor. So that basically says that you really cannot ask somebody to mitigate a water well. And then on top of that, we're using public funds to do that and assisting a private landowner with these public funds. So how do we, make that work and mold it so that where we can make this work to where we're actually helping a lot more people and not just one person, and still doing this assistance for people. So first of all, we're not assigning blame. You can see that we made this, the rule is that it is for drawdown that occurs due to pumping that is regional wide. So not just pumping that is coming from within our district. We know that there is a lot of other permits that are outside of our district, and we have a lot of influences of groundwater levels outside of our district as well. Even though we sit over the Carrizo-Wilcox formation, and we're within a political boundary of Burleson and Milam counties, the Carrizo-Wilcox does not stop at those boundaries. We have impacts on what happens outside of our district, and likewise, any impacts or any permitting that they have could also have impacts on what's going on within our district. And so because of that, we made this program where it was for regional-wide drawdowns, and it was for the Carrizo-Wilcox, and the other two minor aquifers that are also within our district, which is the Queen City and the Sparta, and not strictly. So we did have to have some limits to that. I'm going to go past Rafiki here, and we're going to continue to look harder on why this is a public tool and a public benefits tool. So the main one here is so that the well must be located within Milam and Burleson County. That's mainly because those are the counties that we have any jurisdiction within. It must be a registered well, but this is where the rubber meets the road here, is that the owner must agree to allow monitoring by Post Oak Savannah Groundwater Conservation District. So where the public is benefiting from this is that if in place of us going and paying to lower their well, they're in turn telling us, all right, we're going to allow you to come measure our well on a frequent basis, whether that be one time a year or continuously every hour if we put some kind of equipment in it, such as a well intel or a transducer. We can get that data. We're now then able to share that data with the public to either make better management decisions, better rules. Any new well that wants to go in that's maybe neighboring some of those wells, they now have that data available to them. So they're able to make a decision on how deep of a well they may need to put in, or even how deep of a pump they may need to put in that well, and to make sure that they're averting their risk also. So they're making themselves more risk averse, just like any stock portfolio. You want to make sure that if you're drilling a well, you're averting as much risk as possible. And so, and the reason for why we're trying to make this is because we do have a cutoff period. I mean, as we're collecting more and more of this data, as we're retroactively assisting wells, we know that at some point, any new wells that continue to go in, so that we don't just go and become a well drilling assistance program rather than a groundwater assistance where we're lowering pumps and almost acting like a mitigation there. We don't want to be in the business of drilling new wells for everybody. That's not what we're in place to do. And so we do have a cutoff period that any wells constructed after January 1st of this coming year will no longer qualify, because we would have already gathered enough data, enough information, and when we can then educate not just the public but the drillers on how deep wells in certain areas that are experiencing impacts are how deep they're going to have to drill, or how deep they're going to have to set pumps. And so we find wells by basically, a lot of times it's landowners will call us and they'll say, I'm experiencing problems, and we'll send out a field tech either that same day or at least within the next, within 24-hour period, except when we're all in San Antonio at conferences. But I've been working and calling people actually this week on just this, this problem. It seems like this is the job that I've been doing since October. Almost 80% of my time has been this program alone. But and the other one another program that came out of this was that on a yearly basis, all the data that we're collecting, since we're requiring these wells to enroll within our monitoring program, we're then able to upgrade our data and the data that we have and upgrade our models. And we then hired Intera, well, not Intera, but we consult out to Intera, that then runs this annual needs assessment program. And through this annual needs assessment program, we're able to take a proactive measure. We're able to say, all right, which wells within the next 10 years are going to or may experience drawdown to the effect that we're going to have to go in and assist that well owner with the cost of lowering a pump. And therefore, we get in there before they experience any problems, and that way we're not receiving that phone call at 8 o'clock in the morning says I was taking a shower last night and all of a sudden my hair stayed all shampooed and soaped up and everything. So we try to avoid those calls by doing this annual needs assessment on a yearly basis, so that we can proactively make any corrections that we may need to make. And at the same time, we're not trying to make people whole. People are still going to be mad at us, but they're happy that we're out there and taking care of them to the best of our ability. And so here's a little snapshot of what we've done so far. Actually, since October of 2020, we've inspected over about 80 wells due to drawdown or calls from people, or due to this annual needs assessment. We've gone out there and we've actually serviced we're close to 56 wells now, where we've either helped most of those, about 95% of those have been mostly well lowerings or pump lowerings, where we have not had to do anything else. What we do is we take the model and we project that model out to 30 years from today. And we say, all right, this is where the model says water level is going to look like in the year 2050. And we go out there and we actually lower the pump replace with a bigger pump if necessary to that water level. That way, we don't get calls in the next 10 years or the next, couple of days saying we're out of water again. Now, at that point, if the pump were to go out within the next 20 years or 30 years, that would be on the landowner to, take care of it at that place. But at least we've given them and we've set them up for a future use of water well into the next generation, hopefully. And so we have spent a total of about a little over 300,000 in the last since 2018, really, since the inception of this program, and most of that has been on the cost of either lowering pumps or redrilling wells where necessary. And then we also do get some of this reimbursed. So one of the caveats on this was that if you have a prior mitigation plan from somebody else, so I told y'all earlier in this presentation that we had a lot of leases that were already taking place, and a lot of those leases turned into what y'all know now as the Vista Ridge project that sends water down to San Antonio. A majority of those leases have a language in them that says if something were to happen to your well, we'll come in and we'll fix it for y'all. Well, they knew, we were already doing a program similar to what they were promising. And so they approached us and asked us, y'all know the local drillers, y'all know the local people. Would y'all mind just covering this for us? And we have a written agreement with them that says that we will then approach the landowner, and any cost incurred on our part, we then ask them to, or we send them for a rebill. So we do get those taken care of that way. And so out of that a little over 300,000 that we've spent, we've gotten close to 100,000 of that back from those leased properties. And again, I know I got into this a little bit, but where does the funding come from? That funding comes from our fees. We are a fee-based district, and so we have a mix of both production and transport fees, with the majority of our fees coming from transport. And then this is a budget line item, and it's also in our management plan that says that the board will put monies aside on a yearly basis in the budget for this particular project or this particular program. This last year, that budget was $150,000, and that's actually been the budget for the last 2 years. And then any monies not spent just roll over to the next year, so they do accrue. I think the very first year that they funded this back in 2018 was close to 75. So they knew we were going to start getting a little busier, so they started throwing more at this. And as they project that if we were to have to go lower more wells, we have the ability to adjust our transport or production fees up to a total combination of 17 cents per thousand. So I know we're under that right now, so we do have the ability to adjust if necessary still. And then again, as I told you a little while ago, we do get some of that reimbursed from any entities with that existing mitigation agreement. And so again, just to recap, how does the public benefit? Guys, if we're getting more monitoring wells and more, that means we're getting a lot better data. We're getting more data across the aquifers that we're interested in managing. And so that means that we're going to be able to make better management, better rules, so that we can manage those resources. This gives us an opportunity also to relate with the public. We're out there, we're able to talk with them. Of course, they want to know about what's going on with their well. It gives us an opportunity to talk to them about well maintenance. It gives us an opportunity to talk to them about what they should be doing to take care of their wells. If we see any other problems that they may be having, we can do that. And then we can educate them about anything else, that they have questions on related to groundwater. So it gives us an ability to do a one-to-one, face-to-face kind of education, kind of talk with the public. And so it gives us those boots on the ground to go and talk to those people, and it gives us their ear for a little while. And sometimes we lend an ear as well, because they want to vent to us about why we're even there in the first place. But then again, they understand that we're not the ones selling off their water, and we're there to regulate. And they understand, and sometimes, most of the times, we leave with them feeling a little better and a little happier, because we are able to have that public relation and have that education opportunity. And then again, at the end of the day, they're happy because that the cost didn't come out of their pocket and came out of somebody else's. And so that no low cost repair to qualify well owners. And I do put low cost in there because if somebody were to choose something different than what we propose for them, say they wanted a bigger pump than we were going to put in the well for them, so we get them back to what they were running previously. And if they want something bigger, we say sure, as long as it stays exempt. Or if you want something that's non-exempt, you come in and get your permit, but you're going to pay the difference for it. So we don't try to improve them or upgrade them to any abilities. They'll do that at their cost if that's why. So that's why I say the low cost repair there. So, but with that, if y'all still confused about what I talked about, y'all can relate with Timon here and think about Rafiki as being his uncle still. So, but I promise it is a great tool. It has been a good thing. It's something that, if nothing else, it allows you the ability to go out and get more monitoring wells, and getting that more monitoring wells, as Trey was up here just talking about, you get that more data so that we can then make those better data-driven decisions. And so with that, I'll open up the floor to any questions if there's time. I know I kind of ran through it, but no questions? Any questions? Y'all ready to get to beers, although we still only have a break. So, all right. Well, thank y'all. Absolutely.